Greg Moore, columnist for AZCentral Sports Arizona Republic, joins us now here on the Right to It Guest Line, Fox Sports 910. Greg, if you go back to last year with Vogel or even before that with Monty, how was this presser today different than either one of those two?
I don't remember either of those two guys almost crying.
Yeah, okay.
Listen, it was the coolest thing in the world. Mike Budenholzer's there. Budenholzer, is there. His 94-year-old father is there. Al McCoy introduces Coach Bud, and Coach never expected it. So that choked him up. All he could really say was, wow. Then he starts telling stories of growing up in Holbrook, which is apparently right next to a Navajo reservation, and all the buddies he had growing up. And his dad and his brother won a state title in 71. He said he would trade an NBA title for that state title. Said his dad used to take him out in the backyard and teach him post moves. Then he starts naming all these sons that only we here in Phoenix still really, really, really know. You know, Alvin Adams and Walter Davis and these guys that their names, right? Like, these guys are certified in NBA history, but it means something different to us here. It meant the same thing to Coach Bud. And so when he went up there and he choked up, and I don't know, man, it was different in that way.
You know, Greg, we just talked about he also choked up quite a bit when he, I don't know who asked him about taking the year off. What was that like for him? And he got emotional from the get-go, watching his boys play, spending time with his life partner and he and her traveling. I mean, it's like he had some kind of epiphany, or maybe there was some work to be done with that somewhat shined through in his emotions.
You ever lose something and you didn't appreciate it till after you lost it? So all of a sudden, this guy who's been in basketball his entire life, like he was an assistant coach with the Spurs in like 96, 97. He was there when Tim Duncan was a rookie, when David Robinson and Tim Duncan combined for a championship, when Manu Ginobili and Tony Parker turned into Hall of Famers. He took over that Hawks team that didn't know what it was doing. He was the executive in charge of bringing in players. He was in charge of basketball operations. Oh, yeah, and he was the head coach. And he took 4 dudes that nobody really knew outside of NBA circles. He made those 4 guys into all-stars, turned the moribund Hawks into a 62-win team. Then he went up to Milwaukee, helped Giannis become the face of the league, and now all of a sudden he's got nothing to do. What do you do? And so he reconnects with the things that matter most, and he's driving home from watching his son play high school basketball, and he's thinking, this is amazing. And he's recognizing that he's got to get back in. So it was one of those things where I'm with you. It felt like an epiphany. It felt like a profound moment. It felt like this delicate balance between he was so grateful for that year off, but damn, did he miss the thing that he did most and did best.
Greg, I loved your question reference to coaching superstars, and I think a lot of folks want to know how you're going to coach these big three, and we had talked about this last couple of weeks. Well, he's already had a lot of exposure to those superstars, but I'll let you kind of break that down as to his approach with superstars.
It's an odd approach. You would think that a superstar player demands superstar treatment. I remember once seeing an interview where Jimmy Johnson, coach of the Cowboys, was talking about the difference between Troy Aikman and a third-string linebacker. Said if a third-string linebacker fell asleep in a meeting, he'd cut him. But if Troy Aikman fell asleep in a meeting, he'd go, "Hey, Troy, wake up."
Oh, yeah.
Well, Coach Bud, though, when he described it, he showed all the deference and respect to the accomplishment of the guys he's going to be working with, speaking of Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, and, of course, Devin Booker. But what I heard him say was that you first have to show them that you care, show them that you care about them and what's going on in their life. But the thing about the star players is that you have to hold them accountable and coach them hard. And you have to make sure that you're having high expectations and you're being demanding of them. And, you know, that's not coddling. That's not turning a blind eye. That's not benching Bol when he turns the ball over or commits a stupid foul, but letting Bradley Beal and Devin Booker and Kevin Durant play through it. No, it sounded very much like you treat players as players with respect and as men, but players are players. And I think, you know, his resume speaks for itself.
A couple more minutes with Greg Moore, columnist for the AZCentral.com, Arizona Republic. How much responsibility, or not necessarily responsibility, how much involvement do you see him in making roster decisions?
Yeah, that's a great question. I was worried about that, frankly, because he's got that experience as an executive. But I remember the day James Jones was hired, and he was like the top lieutenant for Ryan McDonough and, you know, all of that. What James Jones said that day was, I am here to help make this a winning organization, the kind of place star players want to play. And I don't care if that means I'm scouting, if I'm breaking down tape, or if I'm spotting a guy in the weight room. You know, for a guy to be in charge, James Jones has no ego. And if you think about all the times he went to the finals with LeBron, the championships he won, you can understand the value of having a glue guy in position to help you acquire the players that you're looking for. And if Bud goes to him with a shopping list, I bet you anything James Jones will look at that list and go, you know, we can't afford the fancy cheese, but I bet you if you put this cheese in there, nobody will know the difference. And I bet you those two are going to be able to figure it out.
You like to hire, don't you, Greg?
I do.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was fair that Frank Vogel got fired, right? I don't think it's cool when somebody gets fired after one season, and I think it's an indictment on the players if they did check out on him. I don't think that that's the right thing. I think you give the guy all you've got. He's got a job to do. You've got a job to do. But fair doesn't often factor into these decisions, and what's done is done. And if he was fired a week ago, that's like a billion years in NBA time. So what do? You look forward, you move forward. And you mean to tell me you got a hometown guy who knows what it means to hear the word Shazam choking up with his buddies from back home and his dad and his siblings all rooting for him? Oh, yeah, and he used to coach Tim Duncan and them? Oh, yeah, and he turned Giannis into Giannis? Like, yo, man, I don't know, dude. This seems like a no-brainer to me. We'll have to see where it goes. They got a lot of roster construction to do. It's a long season. Injuries happen. Nobody's got a crystal ball or else we'd all be rich. But, yo, I like the hire.
Sounds like a book ready to be made, hopefully in a couple, 2-3 years, and then a championship there, Greg Moore.
That'd be fun. What if they win it next year and then every year after that? Like, how cool would that be, right? Yeah, I'd write that book.
Hey, if you were looking for a good, if you're looking for, go ahead.
No, I will say this. I do hope everybody gives it a little bit of time. I hope that we don't get so hyper-focused on championship or bust next season that we can't enjoy the process of getting there. It doesn't generally happen that fast. But I like this hire. I think this can do something. I think this team can do something.
Good follow on Twitter or X, saying more. Greg Moore, Arizona Republic. Greg, thanks for jumping on, man. I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much.
No, man, I appreciate you guys. Thanks so much for reaching out.
You got it. Greg Moore joining us, talking some Suns. They'll be up. If you missed anything, you can catch it on our Twitter page at Rock and Minuch.